Welcome to Fishbowl University 401. This video will teach you how to optimize your software settings and hardware environment for best performance. Let's begin with our Fishbowl server. So I'll show that. And we'll click the Tools menu, Options, and go to the Server tab. Right here under Server Memory, you can determine how much RAM to allocate to your Fishbowl server. As a general rule of thumb, you should allocate approximately 1/3 of the RAM on your Fishbowl server up to a maximum of about 9 GB. If you need to find out how much RAM you have on your system, click your Windows Start menu, type Control Panel, and look in your system. This may look different a little bit depending on which version of Windows you have, but this will get you into the right ballpark. So view amount of RAM and processor speed. Looks like I have 16 GB of RAM on this computer, so I could allocate about 5 GB to my Fishbowl system. In a few cases, depending on certain environmental variables, we've also found that 4096 works best. So if you're experiencing any uncommon troubles, you can try that. Next, let's take a look at the recommendations that we've found for optimal hardware settings and minimums. You can find this on the wiki on the Getting Started page. We'll scroll down, and there it is, System Hardware Recommendations. Click on System Recommendation, and here you'll see the recommended RAM and processor speed for the server and for the client, and then also the minimum recommended hardware for server and client, depending on whether you're a small database or a large database. And I hope you'll really take this seriously. You don't want to skimp on this because time is money, and RAM and processors are a relatively small investment, which could certainly pay off if it helps your system run a little bit more efficiently. Back on the Getting Started page, you can also look at the supported operating systems and make sure that one of these is what you're using. You may have noticed that the computer I'm recording on right now is the Home Edition, so that is not supported, and there's a good reason for that. Generally, it'll work. Usually, it'll work just fine, but in a few cases, it causes some trouble. It is not worth your time to set yourself up for this, so be sure and get a supported operating system. Next, let's take a look at the server logging level. So back on the server, click on the logging screen. This setting right here determines how much information shows up when you click the server log button in the data module or the reports module. And info is usually the best setting. It can give you information you need when you're doing some troubleshooting, but otherwise it's a good idea to turn that down to its lowest setting so that it doesn't utilize any system resources and lets you run as quickly as possible. Finally, let's look at one more setting you may want to use to make sure that it's set correctly for your company. So in your Fishbowl folder, go to Server, Bin, and then open the eve.properties file right there. Yours might just say Eve, but if you look under Type, then you'll see it says Properties file. And when you go to open this, you may need to tell Windows to use WordPad or Notepad or any text editor to open this up. And then take a look where it says Threads. This number there should equal the total number of users that you've purchased for your system, plus any integrations like shopping carts or Fishbowl Go, and then add 2 to that. And then save it. And by the way, when you do save that, you will want to first exit your Fishbowl server and then restart it after saving it. That completes the optimizations you can do for your server. Let's look at one thing you can do for your client on a client computer. So go back to your Fishbowl folder, but this time go into Client Bin and open the Fishbowl Client.vm options, also with any text editor. The default this comes set at is 1024, but if your computer has a healthy amount of RAM, you can double that and set that to 2048. Save that, and that may speed things up a little bit on the client end. Finally, let's consider the other big player in this equation, which is your network. If you ever experience sporadic issues like freezing, this is almost always due to network limitations. You can verify this by running the client on the server computer, which involves no networking, and verify whether you experience the same issues there. One of the easiest ways to improve your network is to replace your router. Make sure you're not using an inexpensive model intended for home use, but rather get a commercial duty one, which will quickly pay for itself if you were experiencing network slowdown before that. Secondly, you should also, whenever possible, use wired connections and not Wi-Fi. It's simply faster and more stable technology, even though we all wish it were otherwise. If you still experience trouble, you could have someone test your network for packet loss and such. Fishbowl doesn't troubleshoot your network, so get an IT professional who can come and take a look. If you've taken all these steps and continue experiencing any slowness or instability, there are one or two other settings that support techs can try for you. So as long as you have an active support contract, please give us a call. As always, thanks for watching Fishbowl University. Come back as often as you'd like to learn all the tips and tricks about how to make the most of your Fishbowl inventory system.